I don't think I have a problem. I don't. I know I don't because I keep my limits low, and I never ever bet what I can't afford to lose. But I think I think I'm up to like 7 bets for the championship weekend here. I have like set.
That's a healthy grouping.
I have like, well, a lot of them, like, you earn like free bets along the way and things like that. These apps do a good job of promoting that, that stuff and profit boost and all that. So I was checking. Also, I have some guys who like you create friendships with. Who are like, hey, if you ride this parlay, I'm telling you, ride this parlay with me. I'm like, okay, I got to take it. He told me to ride it. I got to go with it. You know what I mean? He's my Ravens guy, and he's giving me a Ravens parlay. I got to ride it.
There you go.
And but I laugh because I'm like, there was a point where I was talking to a friend at work here, and he's like, well, what are you really rooting for this weekend? I was like, if I look at my bet slip, I'm kind of just rooting for everything at this.
Exactly.
At this point in time.
I mean, it's kind of like fantasy football when you have more than one league,
It is. It feels that way. But, this is the last weekend to really, you just kind of empty the clip. Because then, like, Super Bowl weekend, your bets get really, really, it's like you pick a winner. You do something really simple. Like, I'll pick, like, a money line winner and then, like, maybe an over-under. And then you have, like, the 3 or 4 really wild prop bets. I don't think I'm going to be putting a bunch of parlays together and stuff like that because the Super Bowl you're enjoying it with the friends, you're watching it, you don't want to be stuck on your phone, like, wait, did that cash? What am I rooting for right now? Blah, who's got the ball? But this is one of those weekends where I keep looking at it, I'm like, all right, I don't think there's anything else I can bet. I have a Ravens parlay, I got a Lions parlay, I got a Chiefs parlay. You're unloading the clip of all the free bets and things I've stashed over the last couple of weeks, and it's just like, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, time's running out.
We're getting Valentine's dinner paid for here, boys. We're getting it paid for.
I love the meme.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a meme with the guy who's the snooty wine taste tester, where the guy pours him the wine in the glass, and one of the guys in the betting space on Twitter posted that and just said, "Me when my 25-cent 10-leg parlay hits for $30." I think that sums it up pretty well.
That is well. The average bet in America, and I'm right on average, is like $4 on these sports books. I don't.
There you go.
I rarely.
People can't afford to go crazy.
My units are, anywhere between $5 and $10 a bet. Like it's never more than that. And I will reveal we'll go through it. Obviously, we'll make our picks here though, we'll keep it simple with overs and unders and lines. But I think there's 2, one in each game I really liked. I think are for sure winners. So we'll ride them together here, Football Lounge fam.
Good stuff. The road has narrowed, as Mike Tomlin likes to say, for the quest for another Lombardi trophy. And in the words of one of those quarterbacks who isn't on this journey, here we go. Been dying to
here we go.
Dak Prescott here on the show for quite some time. It felt fitting to start things off this way.
It's almost as good as your Christopher Walken.
I just not as good. Nate Byrne did a hell of a Christopher Walken. I could never compete with that one. That's for sure. Bernie Sanders is my go-to.
Oh, really? You do a good Bernie?
Yeah. It's I'll have to prepare something to say and introduce in the show, but it's basically like this. Like we're here for the working poor. And you got to have the finger kind of going out there. Trump does something similar, but
we'll do a whole off-season show where we unleash our like 3 or 4 like impressions that we could do.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe we'll do a whole show. Pretending to be these alter egos.
I will.
That'd be fascinating.
I would love to just spend 20 minutes doing draft prep as Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh God.
There's a lot of things you have to learn. It's
just like dissecting the route running. So I can't do Arnold to save my life. So yeah, that's all you. But Yeah, we've got 2 games to go over here today and give our picks on who's going to be advancing to Super Bowl 58 in a few weeks from now. But of course, as always, got to address some breaking news that happened over the last few days since our last show on Monday. If you're curious about kind of our thoughts on how we ended up with this Final Four, go check out that episode on Monday from our divisional round recap. But since then, the head coaching pool has continued to thin out, and now we've got 2 vacancies left, the Washington Commanders and the Seattle Seahawks, as the Atlanta Falcons officially hired Raheem Morris to be their head coach, former DC of the Sean McVay tree. And then also we've got Jim Harbaugh going to the Los Angeles Chargers, and then the Carolina Panthers deciding on Dave Canales, most recently the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to be their head coach. So those 3 vacancies are now filled, and we're left with 2. Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, still out there, 2 of which were considered to be, leading candidates for the Atlanta job. So they are not in there. We've got Dan Quinn. We've got a couple other, prominent names kind of circulating right now for those final 2 jobs. So that'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. But Jim Harbaugh being the headliner here, obviously leaving Michigan after becoming a national champion. He has won everywhere. He has prior NFL experience, prior NFL Super Bowl experience at that as well. And so now he jumps into the Chargers, which have had seemingly no identity for the last God knows how long. And he jumps into a team with Justin Herbert. So seems to be a pretty solid landing spot for Mr. Harbaugh, and familiar stomping grounds as well. He was a San Diego Charger quarterback, and of course, he's familiar with the West Coast in his time dealing in college as well, Stanford, all the like. So your thoughts on Jim Harbaugh leaving Michigan, coming back to the NFL, and kind of what this means for the AFC West and what it means for really Justin Herbert's future and the Chargers' future at that.
I love the move. I love the aggressiveness of the Chargers to go make the move. I love that Harbaugh has a place where he can go, and unlike his previous stint in the NFL when he showed up to San Francisco and they were kind of a mess, and unlike when he showed up to Stanford and they were kind of a mess, and unlike when he showed up to Michigan and they were just kind of in dire straits, they couldn't sniff Urban Meyer and that Ohio State program. He's coming to a cupboard that is not bare at all. And the AFC West now is the coaching division in sports. I mean, we both love Antonio Pierce, and we're really pumped the Raiders hired Antonio Pierce. And he is the 4th best coach of that division. And that's a wild thing to say. And what I think so much about this move that is just great for us as fans of football, it's great to have Harbaugh back in the NFL. He spent 9 years in Michigan. It's been a long time since he was gracing the sideline in San Francisco. And credit to San Francisco, they were able to rebuild pretty quickly post-Jim once they got rid of their GM, who him and Jim butted heads. And they moved on from Tom Sula, and then they went and tried Chip Kelly really quickly and got rid of him, and then got Shanahan in there. And they've been very, very stable and successful in the Shanahan-Lynch era. And those 2 working really, really well together. They're, on the cusp of their 2nd Super Bowl together, 4th NFC Championship game together. It is a really impeccable marriage, those 2. And what San Francisco has done, been really successful. But Jim was the one who kind of pulled San Francisco out of the rut. Remember, San Francisco had this weird run of coaching that included my guy Mike Singletary, and his efforts on Vernon Davis. Remember his quotes and all that. Like they were
can't do it, won't do it, can't coach them,
can't win with it. And they were in a really weird spot. And so anyone who doesn't think that Harbaugh can come in and win right away, I just don't get what you're basing that off of, right? Show me.
Certainly not his history. That's
like sure. I have the proof on my side that Harbaugh will come in and win right away. Now, will he go to an AFC Championship game next year? No, but the AFC just got even more difficult, which is just great for us as football fans, right? Like, I mean, it makes every one of the teams in the AFC have to up their game even more. It makes this game between Baltimore and Kansas City even more important for one of these teams because the AFC, again, just got tougher next year. So you're in this spot right now. You don't want to let this spot go to waste. I was saying I had to pre-record my show for tomorrow morning. We're recording this Friday afternoon. I just finished, spending an hour recording my show for tomorrow. I have to head out of town for a swim meet for my stepson. And I was like, the AFC championship game is now the most coveted two spots in all of sports, right? Like, you can't think of a more like competitive and hard fought like spot for those two spots. I mean, the Western Conference Finals is going to be really tough to find which teams end up in the Western Conference Finals. Got a lot of superstars in the West, but the AFC,
it's the Rose Bowl.
It is. I mean, it is.
Yeah,
it's low, and so when you basically have to pencil in with or Sharpie in Patrick Mahomes every year. You got a lot of teams fighting for one spot. Now you seriously add to me the Chargers to that list. Like, they are now a serious contender. It's impressive. Dan, I'll throw it to you with saying this. People think Justin Herbert now is going to be an MVP. I think differently. I think since Justin Herbert was thrown into the game after the Chargers doctor stabbed Tyrod Taylor in the lungs with a needle, he has been asked to basically, with his arm talent, carry the Chargers. Austin Eckler's a really good back. He's a dynamic back, but he has been asked to carry the Chargers for 4 years since that stabbing of Tyrod Taylor. This is now the opposite. Like, it is now the opposite. He will now have an offense that is basically like, no, you play within this system, and this system will carry you, but a fantastic play will make this system really, really special. And I think Herbert is about to thrive in his system. And I think Herbert is about to go 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, but also while having a really dynamic run game. Look at like the season Jared Goff just had and that kind of offense. Ben Johnson, what he runs is very similar to like what Jim Harbaugh wants to run. Very dynamic, interesting run game, but it's a power physical game with a quarterback then who is extremely efficient in the play action with deep shots over the middle, protecting the football. We know Herbert can do that. We don't question Herbert's talent. We're not going to call him a game manager, but he's going to be all of a sudden put in a system around him that does that. I mean, Brady thrived in a strong system. I seriously feel like we're going to get Justin Herbert efficiently walking his way to maybe an AFC title game within 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly within the range of outcomes for him and Jim Harbaugh. I agree somewhat. I mean, they're going to make it a more balanced attack. They're going to support Herbert a lot more. I mean, Harbaugh's signature is physicality. So this team is obviously going to pride itself on its ability to win in the trenches, and that includes the run game. And we'll see kind of what they do with the running back position moving forward, with Austin Eckler. And obviously they're probably going to have to get rid of some guys that they're paying a lot of money to on the defensive side because, I just don't know if you can sustain salary cap with Khalil Mack and Bosa.
And that's okay.
These free agent acquisitions. But yeah, that's fine because Harbaugh's a builder. I mean, he can build.
He's a builder.
A quality team around him. And probably the benefit almost to him not being on one side of the ball is that he can probably, approach this from a completely holistic sense, which is kind of what the Chargers need. They need a complete,
culture
brooding,
tone setter.
And he's a guy that can do it from all angles, right? And he's also been at a lot of places, so I would be confident that he could put together a staff that's going to be pretty damn good. So yeah, I mean, all of those things. The only thing I'll disagree with is I do actually think that an AFC championship game is well within reach for them next year, just because, I mean, the division's super tough. They're in one of the most difficult divisions for sure. But I just think Harbaugh gets it done really quickly at pretty much every spot he's been. And I think with a quarterback of this caliber that he could do it very, very quickly and be able to get that turned around.
It's going to be so much fun to watch.
It is. And for the other hires, Raheem Morris has been talked about for years. I mean, I follow obviously Mike Tomlin.
He was the head coach of the Bucks, right? He was with Jameis. I'm pretty sure he was. It was Raheem Morris.
Was,
then they brought in Lovie Smith.
I think Raheem Morris might have been a interim coach at that time, but I'll have
He
to
never
check.
was the official head coach.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what his head
Because Vance
coaching.
Joseph, I got him and Vance Joseph confused a little bit because Vance Joseph
No,
actually
you're
was
right. He was the Bucks head coach from 09 to 2011. So it's been
with
a minute.
Jameis, and then
Um,
Lovey came in, and then they went to Arians, I think, to fix. There might have been someone else in there, and then they went to Arians to fix Jameis, and then the Super Bowl runs and now top Bulls.
Yeah.
So
Well,
he was really young.
was Jameis? Is Jameis really that old? He was there in 2011.
Oh yeah.
Really? So he's wow. I didn't realize that. So Jameis Winston's older. No, he can't be. He's 30 years old. That.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe he was 2013. Maybe Raheem Morris was bad.
Yeah, it might have been like because
who was his? Oh, was he then with like Byron Leftwich last year's?
Josh Freeman.
Josh Freeman. Maybe I'm getting that confused.
That was terrible.
Raheem Morris is, but like he's a name. He was a young guy who got an opportunity. It didn't go well. He's worked his way back all the way up. He's been around the league, and so I'm
a lot of people sing his praises. I mean, Mike Tomlin has long said for years in interviews that he's shocked that Raheem Morris, isn't a head coach. And
I'll say you're seeing this. You're basically seeing kind of two different types of hires right now, right? You're seeing either give us the offensive guy, Callahan with the Titans, right? It looks like Ben Johnson with the Commanders. That's going to happen, or. And, we want the young, smart offensive guy, Shane Steichen last year with the Colts, or we want the culture setter. And the culture setter can be an offensive guy like a Dan Campbell, but he leans offense, but he's really a culture setter. Jim Harbaugh leans offense, but he's a culture setter. And then it looks like Raheem Morris fits into that kind of D'Amico Ryans, Gerard Mayo. They lean one way, but they're going to come in and be a culture setter, a CEO. So I'm excited for him to have another chance. I also think now, Dan, this to me makes it feel like Atlanta is going to be one of the most aggressive teams now to go get their quarterback. Because if you're going to bring in a defensive guy and a culture setter and you're going to get a rookie head coach, you need to go get then the star quarterback, whether that's a Kirk Cousins, whether that's trade for Caleb Williams, to go then, all right, he's going to fix our offense. And it's going to be kind of the Houston Texans kind of game plan, right? The Patriots feel like they're trying to set that up as well.
Yeah. And I know this has been talked about many, many times, but it continues to fascinate. That 2013 Washington coaching staff.
Yeah, I know.
The names here: Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Mike McDaniel, all current head coaches. Raheem Morris, now a head coach again. And Bobby Slowick, who's one of the hottest offensive coordinator names being tossed around to be a head coach as well. So there could be potentially 6 head coaches in the NFL right now, a fifth of the league, all from the 2013 Washington Commanders staff. And none of those coaches went on to, coach for Washington, which is just hilarious. And they've all had success to this point. So
they need to. They honestly, to break that curse, they need to hire someone from that staff. Like honestly, they need to just go hire Bobby Slowick.
Go get Bobby Slowick.
See, we got him. Exactly. We knew he was in the building.
Just quell all of those,
they have to.
Statements at this point. Yeah, and Dave Canales, I don't know much about, but he's worked with quarterbacks a lot. He kind of turned Geno Smith around.
Yep.
Got Baker Mayfield one of his most productive years of his career this past season. So obviously they're hoping that he can bring the same to Bryce Young in Carolina. We'll dive a little bit deeper into some of these teams when we get into the offseason episodes coming up. But it's been fascinating. It's been pretty fast moving with a lot of these head coaching hires. And so it looks like we're going to continue to see this, on this trajectory. To
put a button on it, I think for me, I think Canales in Carolina, I love that he got a 6-year deal. That's the David Tepper tax, right? Like you're such a bad owner. I'm going to make you give me 6 years. That way, if you decide to fire me, you're paying me for a long time.
Yeah.
I also think I'm happy for Will Levis and the Titans. If you're going to move on from a great coach in Vrabel, then move on in a different direction of let's go be an offensive leaning Callahan. He worked with Joe Burrow. He's going to come in and give that wisdom to our young quarterback. And the AFC South is going to be so much fun to watch next year. And then, you make the great point of we got 2 openings left, but to me, the 2 most desirable head coaches still left, Belichick and Vrabel. If I was them at this point, I think I might sit this one out. Let the Seahawks hire
I don't think either
Dan
of those
Quinn.
are very enticing.
Yeah, let the Seahawks hire Dan Quinn. If you're Vrabel, I mean, the Eagles, the Cowboys, there could be some big name teams with openings in a year from now.
The only thing is that if you're Vrabel and Washington has the number 2 overall pick, they've got some good pieces on that roster that you can work with and kind of rebuild a one-storied franchise. So it's an enticing job, but a tough division. And as you mentioned, better jobs could be on the horizon. But that is all for another episode. We are here to talk championship weekend, AFC, NFC games, Ravens, Chiefs, Lions, 49ers. So let's get things started here.
Dive in,
with
Dan.
The Ravens and the Chiefs, starting us off here this upcoming Sunday at 3:00 Eastern on CBS. And we've got a 4-point advantage for Baltimore right now. The spread, Baltimore -4 coming into this one. Your initial feelings on how this one plays out?
Yeah, it depends. Like right now on FanDuel, it's 3.5, 4, depending on what you're looking at. 3.5 right now. Over under 45.5. We said on the show last week when I picked the Bills to beat the Chiefs, I would feel really dumb, Monday morning. And I felt really, really dumb Monday morning. To me, when I look at this matchup, I say to myself, who's got the better defense? Baltimore. Who's got the offense right now that I trust more, that's done it all season long with the MVP? Baltimore. Who's the healthier team right now? Marlon Humphrey coming back. Mark Andrews coming back. Baltimore. Joe Tooney dealing with a pec. He might miss this game, or if he plays, he won't be 100% against that nasty Baltimore front seven. Obviously, Willie Gay is also questionable for this game. Looks like he may go, but he's kind of the guy you would hope because it's spy Lamar Jackson. The Ravens have, to me, the better skill position guys. They have the MVP. They have the better defense. They've really blown people out all year long. They're at home. And yet the reason why we even hesitate to take Baltimore is because I can just go, but Mahomes. Exactly. And depending on what happens in this game, Monday, we could literally be talking about Patrick Mahomes in a light. You only talk about like 2 or 3 other athletes, like Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, where you say in modern history, I mean, Muhammad Ali, probably you would add to that list in overall greatness, where you're just like, oh, yeah, this person is rolling. This person's hot. This person's got Tiger by 3 strokes heading into Sunday. And you just go, yeah, but it's Tiger. It's Sunday at the Masters. It's Tiger. Exactly. And so it's a real, to me, I honestly feel like I would tell fans and people, if for some reason you could only watch one of the 2 games on Sunday, the Baltimore-Kansas City game historically is a game that could matter 10 years from now when we're talking about Canton. When we're talking about these guys going into Canton, like this game will be one you can legitimately look back on and be like, if Mahomes beats the MVP and he keeps Allen out of the Super Bowl, he keeps Jackson out of the Super Bowl, he kept Trevor Lawrence, like he is becoming Michael Jordan, where Michael prevented Malone, prevented Stockton, prevented Ewing, prevented
blocking
Barkley,
everybody,
blocking dudes out. Like even in Brady's career is different, right? Because Brady's career was so long that eventually other guys, they had to win. Manning got 2, Ben got 2, Mahomes started at the end of Brady's career, all these things, whatever. But legitimately just like blocking dudes out, it's extremely, extremely impressive. And I would add to that, on the flip side, for Lamar, think about it. If Lamar is able to win an MVP, his second, to do it beating Mahomes at home, to do it, then go on to win a Super Bowl MVP, he's now in that air where it's like you have to talk about him as a Hall of Famer. And he's still got so much of his career and his potential still ahead of him. Even if the way his play style, his career only lasts another 7 years, where Mahomes lasts another 10 years. Mahomes may end up being the all-time better quarterback in the ranking, but Lamar has a chance to do kind of what Eli Manning did and be like, hey,
spoiler a little bit.
You know what? You may have better stats, bigger numbers, all that stuff, but I'm the dude. I'm your kryptonite. I was the dude who was able to beat you when you were in your prime at your biggest moments. So it's there's a lot to look forward to in this game. But I think historically, this game has a chance Sunday to be a game that matters so much when we talk about resumes and Canton in 10, 15 years from now. On the NFC game, it's important, and one team will go on to maybe have a chance to win a Super Bowl. The Super Bowl will more define the legacy of whoever wins the NFC team, right? But this game will have the impact of a Super Bowl for these guys. Like it really is the 1B. If the Super Bowl's 1A, this is the 1B game.
Yeah. No, I'm absolutely stoked to see how this one plays out. I was kind of surprised it ended up being the first game. I thought they would save it for the night.
Well, they rotate. They want on fairness.
Right.
So
yeah.
Fox and CBS rotate. It's a fairness thing. It's NFC, AFC. So last year the NFC was the early game, so they get the late game this year. So it's luck of the draw.
And it works out for the NFL because they get the superior broadcasting crew, at least from my opinion on this game, on the CBS game here, because it's going to be Nance Romo, right?
But Burkhardt and Olsen are great.
I love Olsen, and Burkhardt is solid, but I don't know. I just feel like I guess I don't know. It's tough because Nance is my all-time favorite play-by-play guy.
Nance is the Brady of those four. Yes. Everyone else is kind of equal.
And then I would probably, Olsen to me is a better color commentator than Romo.
I get
Olsen's the best color in the game right now, but
I think he might be. Yes.
Yeah, but Nance is definitely like my all-time favorite. So
Nance is fantastic.
I am partial to that, but I think that this guy. I think you touched on something really important about this being a legacy game for multiple reasons on either Mahomes' side, or for Lamar. I also see this as being a super impactful game for just Kansas City in general, because I think that there could be some ramifications on a loss here, being that. We've heard some rumors. I don't put much stock into them about Andy Reid mulling retirement. I don't really think that that's probably going to happen. But a loss here, in a year where things started to seem a little bit down for Kansas City, but they picked it up definitely in December and then are just on a roll as of late. For them to take that shot, potentially losing Travis Kelce, who's to say that he's ready to run it back yet again after this year? Who's to say Andy Reid doesn't hang it up after
what do you
this
do with
year?
Chris Jones in free agency? There's a lot of questions.
We're about to see a very different Kansas City team in 2025, even if they win the Super Bowl. Yeah, right. No kidding. And so I just feel like, this could be kind of do or die for a lot of reasons. And if they win the Super Bowl, maybe none of those guys return anyway because they go out on top, but at least they got the hardware. At least they got their third title now, with Mahomes, and really, solidified that winning dynasty as opposed to just being a dynasty in general. They're now a dynasty that is in the, era of the Bulls, 90s Bulls, where they were just rattling off championships back to back to back. So this could be, just make a totally different narrative for how the Chiefs are perceived. They're still going to be winners. Mahomes is still going to be a guy that has, a chance to win a title every single year because he's Mahomes, regardless of who his head coach is.
Yeah.
I think he's the same way as Tom in that way, or Peyton in that way. But I do think the marriage of Mahomes, Kelce, and Reid potentially being on ice, on thin ice here, and if they lose this game, that maybe makes it a little bit more fragile. So I think that's super important. And you hit the nail on the head with Lamar and the Ravens. This is your time because it's your MVP year. I mean, most people, if not everybody, thinks you're the consensus MVP. despite being the best team record-wise for the vast majority of the season, nobody was really considering Baltimore to be the team. That Philly was still there. San Fran was still in that conversation.
It came on late in the season with those wins against San Francisco and Miami.
That's really what solidified it.
It still feels new that they're the 1-1.
Yeah, and they're Baltimore. They're smaller market. They probably just feel kind of like it's us against the world, even despite holding the number 1 overall seed. So
totally.
All of that to say, there's pressure on both sides here. Obviously, Lamar needs to get over the hump, and I wouldn't even consider a Super Bowl loss to be, to make it a losing season overall for Baltimore. I think getting over the hump and getting there is kind of what they need. This would be a huge shot.
Also, you think about
for them.
Over the last now 24 years in the AFC, going back to Baltimore's first title with Ray Lewis, in 2000 to start this, century, Baltimore has a chance here to sneakily be like one of, four titles or, 3 titles in in a 24-year span. Yeah. Like, you're winning one about every 8 years, 2 different coaches, 3 different quarterbacks. Like they leaving Cleveland, they have been a real force in the AFC that include in that time Manning, Big Ben, Brady, and now Mahomes. So it just goes to show what a great organization Baltimore's in, even put themselves in the spot. Yeah, also wild that it's their first AFC championship game ever. Baltimore Ravens hosting the first ever AFC championship game. I got a couple.
I didn't realize that. Yeah, I guess they did go on the road. They didn't host in 2000.
No. I got a couple stats here just to they were at Tennessee, I think, right? I got a couple stats here.
Yeah, that's right. That's when Ray Lewis picked off the pass. It stole it from
Steve
Eddie George. Well, he stole the pass from Eddie George had it in his grasp and it got ripped away. But
so I have a couple quick little things here to think about before I make my official pick, and we can get into it here. Mahomes 3-1 in his career against Lamar, but this is their first playoff meeting. But I do think that's something. And to me, what that means is the Chiefs defensively, Spagnuolo and everything, like they've played Lamar. This isn't like Lamar versus the NFC. As much as Lamar is explosive, it's not like they've never seen Lamar before. Now, have they seen the Todd Monken Lamar and like this version? And like maybe not. You could argue it's a little different.
They also just played Josh Allen as well.
So they're running quarterback,
prepared to take on a scrambling quarterback.
The Chiefs tend to go man defense in the red zone, and Lamar and their weapons, they are man beaters. You talk about Zay Flowers, OBJ, likely Andrews coming back. That's going to be a really interesting matchup to watch for. If and when, if the Chiefs can keep Lamar out of the red zone, it plays into their hands a little bit. In the red zone, I think Lamar could feast on this Chiefs defense. The other thing I will say is Spagnuolo, how aggressive will he be? He has a tendency in big moments to get a little aggressive. And how aggressive will he be versus Lamar, especially knowing that Willie Gay is not 100%. The guy who's your speed linebacker who would be able to, you'd hope to wrap him up. That being said, everything in my brain and my gut says that Baltimore's the better team. Harbaugh is a great coach. Baltimore has the MVP. But I felt really stupid Monday picking against Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, and I cannot do that twice in a row. And if I had picked Kansas City to beat Buffalo, I'd probably be picking Baltimore to win this game. That's how my dumb brain works. This is why you come to this show, for sometimes just some dumb brain takes. I think this game gets out of hand at some point in time early in the third quarter. I think it's a lot of feeling each other out. 17-17 into halftime, something like that. And then all of a sudden, these teams feel confident with their game plans attacking the defenses. And I think that even though great defense like Baltimore has and a really strong defense that Kansas City has, they can get exposed. So, great offense always beats great defense. You watch the NBA. I was watching the Suns, the Boston Celtics last night versus the Miami Heat. Miami Heat are a great defense, Heat culture. There's just sometimes that Jason Tatum's just like, the dude is on fire. He was on fire from 3. You couldn't do anything. Hand in his face, bodies on him, couldn't do anything. I have a feeling Lamar and Mahomes will catch fire in the second half. The scoring's gonna explode. And if that happens, then I just can see it in my head. 27-27, a minute left in the fourth quarter. Lamar had just let it down to tie the game on the touchdown drive, 27-27. And Mahomes has the ball and goes, 60 yards in 45 seconds with one timeout. Sets up Isaiah Pacheco, little handoff run, take a knee, 3 seconds left. Harrison Butker kicks him into the Super Bowl. I'm going the Chiefs 30-27 over the Ravens.
All right. I like it. I am going against my pre-playoff prediction that I had. I joined a playoff predictor bracket, that awards you points for each win as you go along. And my final there was ultimately Ravens 49ers in the Super Bowl.
The 1 seeds. Chalk.
And I picked Kansas City to get to the AFC Championship game and to lose. I am going against that in this moment because I saw the same thing you did. I said, after I watched them go on the road in the wild card round host Miami in the wild card round and handle them, with relative ease, especially in those elements, and then go to Buffalo and get a really difficult win in an awfully hard venue against a surging quarterback. I just kept saying to myself, who were we? And I mean the royal we, like everybody.
Yeah.
Who are we to even doubt? Who are we to doubt Patrick Mahomes and this Kansas City Chiefs team, despite their slow, ascension throughout the season, despite their, record, and they were still a 3 seed, and they had a rough year, and the roughest year that Patrick Mahomes has had, they were the 3 seed, and still ended up hosting a playoff game. It's kind of comical at this point, but I just said, after the Bills game was probably going to be the most difficult thing to get over for the Chiefs this year and just in general.
Emotionally now, as well.
Yeah, that too. I mean, there was the pressure there of, hey, we've beaten them, 2-0 in the playoffs at this point, and we have to do it once again. But now we're on the road, and we've never gone on the road in the playoffs, all of that stuff. It's the Mahomes factor, man. And watching him do what he did, watching Travis Kelce have the resurgence, and that is something I expected. I was like, Kelce's not going to be as bad as he was in the regular season. He's just too good, and he's gonna return to form. And so, look, I mean, if you go down the line, tight end, slight advantage to Kansas City, outside weapon, slight advantage to Baltimore, running backs, slight advantage Kansas City, defense, slight advantage Baltimore. We go back and forth there, and ultimately quarterback, the advantage goes to Kansas City in this one, and that's the most important one of them all. Patrick Mahomes, I mean, you nailed it too. I mean, if this game's tight, which I think most of us expect it to be, then it's all about who gets the ball last and who makes that defining play when it matters the most. And we just haven't seen Patrick Mahomes completely just wither in that moment. No. He is the best version of himself when it matters the most. And you're bound to get a moment where he has to rise to that occasion in this game. And I just expect him to. And we've seen, and I'm not trying to hold Lamar, hold this against Lamar for the end of time. But we've seen him, perform less than expected in those moments up to this point in his career. It's not to say it won't be different. He could win this game. The Ravens probably should on paper, given that they have the better team. But yes, I'm with you. I'm taking Mahomes for all of those reasons. And I think it'll be actually a little bit more high scoring, despite there being 2 great defenses here. It just feels like defense, like it doesn't matter anymore in the playoffs. It's like, no, if the great offenses are going to score a shit ton in the playoffs, and that's just going to happen. I don't know what the weather's supposed to be.
Supposed to be decent, like 45 degrees, decent.
Then that makes it all the more easy to fathom. I'm going to go Chiefs 34, Ravens 28. and kind of solidify this thing for Kansas City. They get back to the Super Bowl once again.
Yeah.
And we'll see if they can make it 3 in a row, coming up Super Bowl weekend. But yeah, that is my thoughts on this one, and certainly hitting the over. So I would take the over for sure. And, covering as well.
My final reaction to that, and I think what I just want to make sure I'm very clear on, I don't think the Ravens are going to lose this game because of Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar is going to play well.
It'll be the defense.
I think he's going to play really well. And I don't even think they're going to lose because of the defense. I just think there's going to be the times, like we saw in the Buffalo game, where Mahomes does things you're just like, God bless America. How? Like, he just he's just different. And he just moves his body in the pocket and scrambles for 10 yards here or there and has the complete calmness. They put a heart monitor on Mahomes during the Bills game. And I heard this on The Herd. I think it was a Monday or Tuesday. His heart rate only rose while he was on the bench watching the Bills. While he was playing, his heart rate was steady and did not spike. So, I mean, there is something scientifically different about this man. Like, it is.
That's interesting. It seems a little concerning, but I mean,
I know. So, but like, he's got an aorta problem or something. But there is something different. I think Lamar is going to play really well. I think Baltimore overall will play well. I just think there's going to be a moment where it's like there's nothing you can do, and you're going to feel like those Bills fans who are just like, what do we have to do? And I just think at this point in time, if it goes the other way and Baltimore wins, Kansas City will not win in a blowout. It will not be a 10-plus point game with Kansas City. They can't beat Baltimore like that. Baltimore's too good, too well coached, and they have Lamar. The Chiefs could get blown out if things snowball because the Ravens are that good. But I do think the Chiefs are playing with a confidence and an elevated play. And I mean, listen, we've never seen Mahomes get blown out except for one game. That was the Super Bowl when he was on the road in Tom Brady's home stadium at the Bucs, and their 2 starting tackles were down. That's what it took to blow Mahomes out. So it's not going to get blown out. But he could if Joe Tooney doesn't play and if Lamar has the game of his life, which is capable of happening. But I don't think they're going to blow I don't think they're going to blow the Ravens out. I think it'll be close, like we both said. It can't wait for it.
Lions on the road at the 49ers for the 6:30 game on Fox, 6:30 Eastern, and according to ESPN Bet, the spread is San Francisco -7.5. So they are heavy favorites in this game with a 51.5 over in that one. So that's all according to ESPN Bet there, but quite the spread. I don't know if I feel that confident. I'd probably steer away from that one, but I think this is an intriguing game. I agree that I'm much more excited to see Kansas City and Baltimore go head to head just because it's the two, the two MVP caliber quarterbacks.
The Canton storylines.
But San Fran and Detroit are very similar teams. Like, I'm very excited to see how they kind of inch their way. I see this as kind of just like a clash and like a tug of war where people kind of gain some leeway and then, give it back. And then, it's back and forth. And who's going to just, inch themselves slightly over the middle line by the end of this thing, because both have, a star receiver, both have a fantastic Iowa tight end, both have an incredible playmaking running back, and both have quarterbacks that are, maligned for being game managers, as if that's some sort of a pejorative. And they have, tough defenses. Obviously, the 49ers have a much more talented defense, but we see they haven't looked at themselves, especially last week. But, I overall, Mark, think that San Fran's defense kind of returns to form a little bit. If they were playing a team like Kansas City or Baltimore, I would be much more concerned, because I would be like, they're going to really have to tighten up a lot and not give up any room. But I'm not as, if I'm them, I'm not as scared of Detroit's offense, if that makes sense. Detroit certainly is capable of the big play, and Laporta could beat you, and Amon-Ra St. Brown can. But I see this much more of a physical kind of, beating down your defense as we go type of game for both sides.
Yeah.
And I San Fran's defense is a little bit more capable of weathering that storm, while their offense has the ability to score 80 yards on a play if they need it from Debo, if they need it from Kittle. Whereas I just don't know if I have that confidence in Detroit. Now, as it's been for much of the season and all postseason, I am pro Detroit. I am rooting for the Lions to carry this storybook season, one step further and get themselves to their first Super Bowl. I would love nothing more than to see that. So I will once again be rooting for it to happen. But if we're talking about two very similar teams, one's got slightly better weapons, both slightly better superstars on both sides of the ball, and a superior strategist at head coach. Those are some things that are difficult to overcome in moments like this, especially when you're going to need to not make the fatal flaw, taking that extra timeout when you can't afford to take it in the first half, or, taking a knee with 35 seconds left at the end of the half, or, not challenging a play when you should have challenged it, doing some of those things on top of obviously the scheme. Kyle Shanahan's been in these moments, he's been in too many of them, and on the losing side of it. I take his experience and what he's learned over the years, and the 24-3 and losing in the Super Bowl. And I think there's a lot that he's seen. And I love Dan Campbell. He's going to be a coach there in Detroit for a long time. I hope that this isn't the last of their NFC Championship game appearances. But for my money, I think the 49ers just kind of have enough here. And it's going to be, whether it's, that one play, it's that, 65-yard running catch from Debo Samuel that you just really wish you had back. It looks almost certainly like he's going to play. That's going to be the difference maker. So I think this one will be a little bit low scoring. So I would take 24-20, 49ers get the win. And unfortunately, the storybook season for Detroit comes to an end. So I imagine divert and take Detroit on this one, but I'm curious, what your assessment is.
You have the Lions covering the 7.5. I like that.
I do have
I
them
agree.
covering. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think this is going to be a really close game. I really do. Yeah.
Betting lines, I think that's absolutely the play, 100%. Well, listen, you nailed on. I love what you said there at the end, Debo Samuel. I mean, it does look like he's going to play. Does he play as like a decoy and 10 snaps, or does he play?
I think you'll let him loose. You got to let him
loose,
because if he's hurt for the Super Bowl, then it's like, whatever. He got us here,
Because all reports are he's practicing. There are some real laboring struggles. It's a shoulder. Yeah. All it takes is one hit, and all of a sudden it's like he's out again. So to me, that is a crucial part of the game. Crucial part of the game, because this Niners. I agree with you. Everything you said when you were talking about how these teams match up, like great tight ends, really solid offensive lines, elite tackles, a great dynamic back, really solid, above average elite game managing quarterbacks who distribute the ball really well. The dynamic wide receiver in Ayuk and St. Brown. The difference is, the Niners have Debo Samuel and the Lions don't. The Lions have guys like a Jameson Williams and some other, David Montgomery, who the people like the San Francisco don't have those type of guys. But Debo is unique. He is their Swiss Army knife. He's more important than Christian McCaffrey in a lot of ways for opening things up and how that offense works.
The motion, he does that all, yeah.
Now, granted, Kyle Shanahan was fully preparing for Debo to play all of the Green Bay game, and then they had to think on the fly, which I think one of the reasons why their offense looks so weird through large portions of that game and not great. This week, they 100% have a game plan in, we're playing Debo, but as soon as he gets a wrong hit, we have to take him out maybe midway through the first. Here is now the Debo-less game plan and how we're going to attack the line. So I think they will be more prepared. I will also say, the Niners, they lead the league in YAC, yards after contact. So they are really, really good at getting
yards
hit.
After catch.
Yeah. And they lead the league in just breaking tackles and breaking through contact and gaining extra yards. I think it's like almost 90 yards per game. So that is, I think, is a really crucial thing. What the Niners want to do is the Niners want to get Brock Purdy to get the ball out quickly, accurately, in space to their weapons, to Kittle, to Debo, to Ayuk, to McCaffrey, boom, 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 in space. They also, the one thing I will say is that they don't do, and Purdy doesn't have the ability, which is something I think plays into for the Lions, is the Niners, you don't see them do what Josh Allen did, right? Josh Allen multiple times during the game's like, fuck it, 60-yard bomb, trying it. Purdy doesn't do that. And Ayuk and Debo aren't really those type of receivers, right? And the weakness of Detroit is, like Matt Stafford, 50-yard bomb, there's Puka Nacua. Why is he uncovered? So what is not a strength of Detroit's is not a strength of San Francisco. So anyone who's talking about, you got to worry about the back end, I don't think you have to worry that much about the back end for now. Who knows? Kyle Shanahan may come out with a game plan to attack them, and he may embarrass them.
It could be an Ayuk game that he gets like three times a year where he has 150 yards, right?
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. Yeah. But traditionally, the way San Francisco wants to play, it's not a strength that attacks a weakness that San Francisco has, the Lions have, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I will say, if you were to go through and read off just dudes, the Niners are the king of dudes, right? They just dudes everywhere. It is like, a really interesting rabbit hole you went down in the internet. How many dudes there are? There's too many dudes. What happened here? There's a lot of dudes everywhere. So I will just say, in general, it feels a lot like how I felt in the previous game talking, right? Man, like everything, they're at home. Defense, offensive line, McCaffrey, Kittle. There's just so much to like. The coach who's been there in those big moments. And then I look at the other side of the field and I smile and my heart gets warm. And I see Man Campbell. And I see his big nuts in the wheelbarrow in like the Randy Marsh game. And I see a Detroit Lions team that is playing with so much house money, with so much confidence, with so much pride. And I see a future Hall of Famer in Penei Sewell. I see overall an offensive line that is top 2 or 3 in the league with Decker and Ragnow. Even though they're beat up, these dudes are animals, and they went through hell to get to this point, to be celebrating and being one of the final 4 teams remaining. I see a running back group that is one of the most dynamic and unique in all of football, both capable of catching the ball, running through the tackles, breaking big runs, both capable of just 4 downs. It's their drive and really punishing a defensive line and a linebacking core. I see a young tight end in Sam Laporta, who is very much, the next generation in the future of how the NFL is in a tight end renaissance like we've never seen before, how so many good tight ends across the league. I see Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's a dog. A dog and a dude who's not afraid of Greenlaw and Warner and taking hits across the middle, whose dad was Mr. Olympia, who just is going to scrap and claw and fight for every extra yard. I see on defense, Aiden Hutchinson, 8 sacks in his last 4 games, who's coming into his own. He's from Michigan. He's playing for his hometown team. I see McNeil, the young defensive tackle, who's eating up space, who's healthy again after missing time in the middle of the year, being able to take on double teams and cause havoc in the middle. I see 2 linebackers who fly across the field, and Anzalone and Campbell, who love to lay big hits. I see a Lions defense that led the league in yak. They only gave up 63 yards in yak this year because they gang tackle, because they wrap up, because they don't let tackles break. I see a Lions defense with a CJ Gardner-Johnson in the backfield who's capable of making a big hit and a big play to maybe cause enough distress that Debo says, you know what, coach, I'm going to sit the rest of this one out. I can't do it. I need to, I'm trying to get paid here this offseason. And then I see a swarm of Lions fans flying from Motor City to techie San Francisco.
I swear, at this point, you better be taking the Lions to win, or else all of this will be a sad, sad ending.
I see a Detroit Lions team in the middle of the third quarter, tied 17-17, back and forth, body blows. These teams are going to feel each other out, right? No one's going to want to make the big mistake early. They're going to want to get the balls to their playmakers' hands. They're going to want to establish the rush. They're going to want to just lean on each other. And then midway through the third quarter, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. That they're going to attack Chase Young all day. He cannot defend in the run game. They're going to let Bosa overextend himself and tire himself out against the future first ballot Hall of Famer Penei Sewell. And you're going to see all of a sudden Jahmyr Gibbs bust a 20-yard run. And then you're going to see all of a sudden David Montgomery lean 2 carries, 15 yards. And all of a sudden the Lions get themselves into a field goal and go up 20-17 late in the third. And you're going to get the ball back to Brock Purdy. And all of a sudden, Hutchinson's going to show up. And he's going to get a strip sack fumble. He's going to make a big sack to force a 3-and-out. And then early in the fourth quarter, you're going to see the better quarterback in this game. Not just by a little, but by far the better quarterback in this game, Jared Goff. Dice this Detroit Lions field down the field, this team down the field, pick apart what is the worst of the San Francisco defenses in the Kyle Shanahan era to make it to an NFC Championship game. Now, that's saying something. They're still very good, but it is the worst of the Kyle Shanahan defenses to make it to an NFC Championship game. And around after about a 6-minute drive to start the fourth quarter, the Lions are going to go up 27-17. And with 8 minutes remaining, the Niners are going to be looking around going, holy crap. We got to put the ball in Brock Purdy's hands. And from there on, it's easy sailing for Man Campbell and the Detroit Lions to take care of business in San Francisco. They're going to end up winning 33-24. The Lions are going to the Super Bowl, and it's going to be because in the second half, after a first half of these two teams just leaning on each other, not wanting to make the mistake, pushing on each other, leaning on their strengths, their offensive lines, their defensive lines, their running backs, the better quarterback, Jared Goff, who's been there. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's been in these big moments. He's got a winning record in the playoffs. He's got the best completion percentage in the playoffs. When Brock Purdy was garbage for 3.5 quarters last week, Jared Goff has been electric in 2 playoff games. He's got a winning playoff record in his career, and he's got the best completion percentage in the playoffs right now. He is going to make the plays late in the game. He is good enough for Detroit, and the Lions are going to win it. So all that being said, what I really want to set up with you is I agree with you. I think these teams are so close. I think these teams are so unique. I think these teams could absolutely, this could be a slugfest 13-13, midway late in the third. If it gets to that, and I think it will, I'm putting my eggs in Jared Goff's basket and Ben Johnson. I'm not putting my eggs in Brock Purdy's basket. I'm not going to do it. I've been one of the biggest Purdy deniers all year. I'm not going to change now. In the last 2 games that Brock Purdy's played when the lights were brightest, on, Christmas against the Ravens, and then last week against the Packers, he was not good in either of those games. He got bailed out in the fourth quarter with a game-winning drive, but he was not good in either of those games. And I do think that Detroit's front 4 will be able to create just enough pressure to keep them alive in this game without having to overextend and blitz too much. And Jared Goff will win the game for the Lions late in the game.
Wild stuff. All right. So a 9-point victory for the Detroit Lions.
It'll be an easy by the fourth quarter. It'll seem like it was an easy victory for them. They're gonna play with their food for 3 quarters.
I'd be happy to see it for sure. I don't think it'll turn out that way. It's interesting you didn't mention any Kyle Shanahan in there.
Well, listen, he chokes 28-3. You know what I mean? Like he chokes. I don't need to mention it. I got Man Campbell and his balls in a wheelbarrow versus the choke artist.
Fair enough.
So Dan, really quick before we go, I think this is a really fun thing to think about. Which matchups? There's 4 possible matchups. I ask you, which matchup if you were CBS and the NFL, which matchup are you rooting for? I think there's an obvious answer.
Chiefs Lions.
Yes, 100%. Agreed. That is the matchup that. And I would say the second matchup would be Chiefs Niners. If you're the CBS and you're the NFL, Chiefs are the number one. The Taylor Swift Kelsey drama is the draw, and also the talk of Mahomes winning 3 this early within 7 years. I mean, that is such a storyline. Mama Kelsey, Jason will be there. That's the ratings draw, and I think the Lions, even though they're a much smaller market than San Francisco, they have a 2016 Cubs feel to them, where
they're
it's
a lovable team.
And first game of the season, Lions Chiefs. Last game of the season, Lions Chiefs. I think it would be ratings gold. So if you want to put your tinfoil hats on, the Lions, don't look at the logo and the colors. The NFL wants the Lions and the Chiefs.
Well, the next time that we regroup with you all, there will be a Super Bowl matchup. We'll know exactly what we're looking forward to over the next couple of weeks. Of course, there's the week off there in between, so we can discuss some other items, probably some more head coaching news if that tends to drop, and plenty surrounding whatever matchup we end up getting here for Super Bowl 58. So looking forward to it. But yes, those are our picks. Both of us taking the Chiefs, and we are split on 49ers Lions. But nonetheless, I think we'll all agree we're going to be treated to some good games and enjoyed, folks. The last time we're getting multiple NFL games for quite some time.
I know.
About 8.5, 9 months. So yeah, enjoy it while we can. But this has been the Football Lounge with Mark and Dan, and we'll see you back here next week.